London was drowning in mist, the street lamps casting dim, trembling halos upon the damp cobblestones. Inside 221B, Baker Street, Sherlock Holmes sat motionless in his armchair, his steepled fingers pressed against his lips, eyes fixed on the flickering flames in the fireplace. Dr. John Watson, seated opposite him, set down his tea with a quiet clink. "You have been staring into that fire for the better part of an hour, Holmes. What is it that troubles you?" Watson asked. Holmes exhaled slowly. "Have you ever felt that something was watching you, Doctor? That an unseen presence lingers just beyond the edge of perception?" Watson chuckled. "Holmes, I am a man of science. I do not entertain such fantasies." Before Holmes could reply, there was a sudden, frantic knock at the door. Mrs. Hudson, their landlady, entered looking pale. "Mr. Holmes, there's a gentleman to see you. He insists it's urgent." Holmes gestured for her to let the visitor in. A tall, gaunt man stepped inside, his clothes damp with rain, his eyes wide and darting about the room. "My name is Alfred Sinclair," he stammered. "Something is following me, Mr. Holmes. A shadow. Presence. It does not speak, it does not show its form. But I know it is there." Holmes narrowed his eyes. "Tell me everything, Mr. Sinclair." Sinclair wrung his hands. "It began a fortnight ago. I would see something, a shifting darkness in the corner of my eye. At first I dismissed it as a trick of the gaslight. But then I felt it watching me, whispering without words. I could hear its silence, Mr. Holmes, and last night," he swallowed. "Last night it took my servant." Watson leaned forward. "Took?" I heard his scream, rushed to his quarters. The room was empty, no sign of a struggle, no door or window disturbed. Holmes stood abruptly. "We must go to your home at once." The three men stepped into a hansom cab, the London fog swirling around them. As they reached Sinclair's residence, a grand but dreary manor in Kensington, Watson noticed Holmes growing unusually tense. As they entered, the air inside was wrong, heavy, as if filled with an unspoken dread. The candle flames flickered wildly, though there was no breeze. Holmes turned sharply. "Something is here." And then, just for a fraction of a second, Watson saw it. A shadow darker than the night itself, stretching unnaturally along the wall. It moved. Sinclair let out a strangled cry. The shadow surged toward them. Holmes pulled a revolver from his coat and fired. The bullet passed through the darkness, striking the wall behind. The shadow recoiled. Holmes seized a nearby oil lamp and hurled it at the thing. The moment the glass shattered and flame erupted, the darkness shrieked. A sound Watson would never forget. The shadow writhed and dissipated into nothingness. The room fell silent. Holmes exhaled, lowering his revolver. "It appears, Watson," he murmured, "that science does not yet explain all that lurks in the night.